Good afternoon, members of the media. The Ministry of Transport strives to provide an environment where job creation and entrepreneurship in the transportation industry are favorable. The importance of transportation in our community cannot be understated. Transportation enhances the reach of businesses, services, jobs, activities, goods, and productivity. It is vital for our tourism sector, for transporting visitors and moving them around the island. In essence, there is no tourism without transport. The Ministry of Transport has allocated a budget of $72.037 million. One of the key initiatives that the Ministry headquarters will focus on in 2022-2023 is the resumption of cruise ship calls to Bermuda. Our cruise line partners expect solid growth for Bermuda's future, and currently there are 177 scheduled calls for 2022. It is estimated that the local cruise ship industry, with cruise ship sailings at 50% occupancy in 2022, will equate to approximately $103 million in economic activity for Bermuda. To support the movement of cruise passengers between Dockyard and St. George's, the Ministry has budgeted for the Orange Route Ferry for 2022-2023. The Orange Route provides crucial connectivity between cruise ship passengers and where it all began, in St. George's, allowing economic benefits for businesses and cruise ship passengers alike to enjoy restaurants, souvenir shops, and attractions in the area. Last year, the Viking Orion's home porting itinerary added a welcome boost to our economy. Although home porting may not be achieved in this fiscal year, it is being actively pursued for the future by targeting boutique cruise lines with vessels that fit into all three ports of call around the island, including Dockyard, St. George's, and Hamilton. $4.4 million has been budgeted for operations of the TCD, or Transportation Control Department. These funds will be used to maintain high-quality customer experience and convenience to customers, and a cost-saving measure. The department aims to make all applications available online. Additionally, TCD will focus on modernizing public service vehicles through a process that has already commenced, with consultation and feedback of key industry stakeholders, including minibuses, dispatchers, taxis, limos. Phase 1 of this initiative includes proposed amendments to the motor car legislation to improve the public service vehicle sector and to ensure improved service, customer and driver safety, and consumer protections. The overarching aim is to strengthen the transportation support to meet the increased demands in preparation for increased air and sea and cruise passenger arrival numbers, and provide a level playing field to better deal with the continuing and inevitable changes and meet customer needs. It will also increase the likelihood of profitability for all public service vehicle operators while reducing key liabilities. TCD will also continue delivering Operation Caution, the government's 5-year road safety strategy, which began in 2018 and is scheduled to be completed in 2023. One of the key deliverables of the strategy in 2022-2023 will be recommendations for enhancing the Project Ride program for students to gain on-the-road training and riding experience. The Road Safety Council will continue to educate and provide awareness of good driving habits. Operation Caution will be extended to 2024 to implement the intended enhancements which have yet to be achieved, such as stoplight cameras and Project Ride training course. As part of the government commitment to transition the public bus fleet to non-fossil fuel environmentally friendly vehicles, the Department of Public Transportation has budgeted to purchase up to 15 additional electric buses and to complete the long-term bus charging infrastructure in preparation for a fully electrified bus fleet, and continued facility upgrades at the bus depot at Fort Langton. During COVID-19, minibuses have been contracted to provide transportation specifically to get students directly to schools in a safe environment as we transition to learning to live with the virus. And once the bus fleet reaches 88 operational buses, we will no longer provide independent transportation for school students. Operating funds of $19.7 million for the Department of Marine and Port Services and $17.7 million for the Department of Public Transportation will allow both departments to deliver public transportation services and for Marine and Ports, legally obligated search and rescue and maritime services. Efficiencies have been found in both departments by reducing overtime and rechanneling resources to support the resumption of cruise calls, anticipated increased cruise shipping traffic. In 2022, the ministry will implement further service reductions based on demand in the area of the Pink Route Ferry. This route is known as the Hamilton Paget Warwick Ferry, and the published schedule service Lower Ferry, Hudson's Ferry, Salt Kettle, Darrell's Wharf, and Belmont. The route has experienced low ridership for several years. The Ministry of Transport will expand air service development. The aim is to position Bermuda for the transformational changes in this post-COVID commercial aviation industry and aid economic recovery and enhance the lives of Bermuda residents. The Air Service Development Committee will expand current air service to protect our key gateway cities while simultaneously entering and expanding into new markets. Now, I have just provided a brief overview of what you can expect in our 2022-2023 budget. And in wrapping up, I want to reiterate that the Ministry of Transport focuses on providing an environment where job creation and entrepreneurship in the transportation industry is favorable, transporting our residents and visitors to the island, from the island, and around the island in safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Scott. We're going to have Will Gazette.
Good afternoon, Minister.
Good afternoon.
You said it would be a budget of $72 million for the year going ahead. You didn't say what it was last year. How does it compare to last year?
Last year we had a budget of approximately $59 million.
Okay, so you've got an extra like $13 million then. So how did you achieve that in the current climate?
I wouldn't say it's an extra 13 million. Keep in mind that 11 million of that goes towards the Skyport MRG.
Okay, so you've only basically got $2 million extra then.
I wouldn't say extra, but it's an increase over last year.
Yeah, okay. You said on Friday in the House that if sanctions continue against Russia for the next 12 months, which almost certainly they will, the BCAA is going to lose 25 million in revenue. How do you intend to compensate for that?
Now, that is a projected number. It is a very fluid situation, and so that is subject to change. With the current sanctions that have come out, that are being imposed right now, we are actually looking at projecting more of a $4 million reduction in revenue for the year. But that is as things are stated right now. So it's a very fluid situation, and it is subject to change.
Well, it seems very fluid because you said on Friday it'd be 25 million, and they were saying 4 million.
On Friday, when we explain something as being fluid, it's like water. It moves and changes momentarily. And also in the House of Assembly, I said the range could be from 5 million to 25 million, depending on how long it goes.
Yes.
And 25 million was in the worst case scenario if all 85% of our total air registry was grounded. And that is not what is happening.
You said it would be 5 million if it lasted for 3 months, and then you said for 12 months
Mhm.
it would be, the expectation was it would be 25 million.
That
I just
would-
don't understand why it's dropped now to 18% of that, 4 million in the case of a few days.
That was the projection prior to the round of sanctions coming out, and we prepared for the worst possible case, and we were making sure that the country was aware of, at that time, what the largest liability to the government could possibly be.
6 days ago, right. On the shipping registry, how you've estimated losses for the BCAA. So what are the estimates for shipping registry losses?
There are no impacts to the shipping registry as it stands right now.
What about going forward for the next 12 months?
There are no projected losses.
Why not though? There are so many Russian ships registered here. Boats.
I don't believe that there are a lot of Russian ships registered here, no.
Well, Roman Abramovich has his Eclipse registered here. Is there any prospect of that being seized?
No, because there are no Russian individual ownership on our shipping registry.
Okay. Obviously, Brent crude's back at about $120 again now. The oil fixed. So that's going to hit on obviously airlines buy their fuel in massive blocks ahead of time.
Mhm.
So that's going to obviously increase charges to customers, or passengers. What kind of impact do you think that will have on the Bermuda tourism transport thing? You just linked both of them together in your speech. So what kind of impact will that have on tourism?
Given that it is not a Bermuda-specific, let's say, decision, it is not something that only impacts Bermuda, it impacts the airlines as a whole. I don't believe that that specific item will be of any significant impact to our transportation industry.
Okay, how successful have you been in attracting more airlines to the islands, more routes?
I think we've been very successful.
Could you give examples?
I think what I will do is this. We will be talking about that and the success of the Bermuda Air Service Development Strategy in very specific detail on the afternoon of March 16th in the House of Assembly.
Okay, the public service vehicle reducing liabilities action, could you put some more flesh on the bones about what that actually entails?
So the public service vehicle industry has not been modified since its inception in any significant way. The ministry is already in consultation with stakeholders to see how that could possibly be achieved to modernize it for today's society, and also to modernize it so that it can take advantage and be in a position to handle the projected increase in cruise and air visitors over the next coming years.
We've been talking about Ukraine. Obviously, there's a vast humanitarian crisis unfolding. Would you personally be in favour of bringing Ukrainian refugees to the island?
My remit goes as far as the government's remit goes. Anything to speak to foreign policy is outside of the remit of the government and is something better suited, or a question better directed, to Government House.
What about you as a human being? Would you like to see more Ukrainians come here?
I'm sitting here as the Minister of Transport for the Bermuda government, and that question would be better suited for Government House.
Okay, talking about the budget, is it your understanding that David Burt is going to retain the finance position along with being Premier?
That is not something that is covered in my statement, and I think that it would be good for questions to be focused on getting persons to the island, visitors to the island, both around the island, in according to transportation.
You're a member of the cabinet. Surely the cabinet's been told whether he's going to retain both positions or not.
Let's run it through the filters. How does that relate to the budget of persons coming to and from the island and moving around?
You haven't been told then. You're a member of cabinet and you don't know whether he's going to retain the two most important portfolios.
Does that question fit through the filters?
Well, I'm asking you. You're a government minister. You should be able to answer these questions. You know.
I can answer questions that are related to the brief that I've just given in regards to the Ministry of Transportation's budget for the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
Yeah, we're talking about the budget, so the finance minister controls the budget. So I'm asking you, is it your understanding that he's going to remain in both portfolios?
How does that speak to what was talked about in this? Does that have to do with the ferry service? Does that have to do with...
All the allocations of money as finance minister. So is he going to retain both roles? Because there's been some criticism that, you know, he's stretching himself too thin by doing both roles. Do you think he's stretching himself too thin?
I just have to correct you. You are incorrect. The ministers determine how the money is allocated within the budgets. And myself as a Minister of Transport have just given you an overview of how the ministry has decided to allocate $72 million of the taxpayers' money. If you are asking of items underneath those $72 million, and you can specify it towards getting Bermudians and visitors onto the island, off of the island, or around the island, I can speak to that.
With all due respect, you didn't decide that you were being allocated 72 million. That is the job of the finance minister, which is why I'm asking you, is David Burt spreading himself too thinly, in your opinion, by holding both most senior roles in government?
The $72 million in which I've been allocated, and which is outlined in this briefing, is what we're speaking to today. And the best way to speak to that, or to find out more information about that, is to ask questions that are related to Bermudians and visitors coming to the island, leaving the island, or going about the island.
Well, finally, we're actually talking about the budget, so I have to assume that you haven't been told that he's staying as finance minister. That's the only assumption that anybody could draw from those comments.
Okay, thank you very much. That ends the press, thank you, Minister Scott.
Thank you.
And that ends the press conference for this afternoon.
Thank you.